It's big, it's empty,
Yeah, it's well named. It does look like a grits.
It does.
it's desert, and it's relatively unknown. The Arizona Strip has some longtime residents,
Most of this stuff is early man.
a storied past,
chipping.
and it's in a very famous neighborhood.
This is the edge. My gosh, it's sheer.
Funding for The Desert Speaks was provided by Desert Program Partners, representing concerned viewers making a financial commitment to the education about and preservation of deserts, and by the Stonewall Foundation.
There she goes. One of the least known places in Arizona, or the western United States for that matter, lies in the northwest corner of Arizona. Rough topography, absence of water, and accidents of history have left this huge area almost completely undeveloped. It's more than just a strip of land, but it's called the Arizona Strip. Two friends of mine are savvy historians and tough outdoorsmen.
Jock, you gonna jump her?
They're ecologist Yar Petryszyn and archeologist Jock Favour. They're ideal companions for a plunge into what some people call the big
look at the view.
empty.
The Grand Canyon was a great barrier from anybody coming from the south trying to get north to the Strip and into Utah as well from there. Lee's Ferry at this spot was one of the only crossings at the east end, and you'd have to go 300 miles plus to the west end at Pierce Landing, which is now Lake Mead, to come in from the west. So the Arizona Strip is really isolated geographically from the south and politically from Utah to the north.
Apparently, it was intended to be a crossing for a long time. You look at these buildings.
Ferry closed in 1928 after a tragic accident. The mail carrier, a man named Nez, and two other men lost their life crossing the river. They closed the ferry at that time, but they kept it closed because the bridge was under construction at that time. The Navajo Bridge was completed in 1929. It's just down the river. After that, these places were vacant.
And it was abandoned then for, a few decades until somebody figured out it's the best place to start running the Colorado River, and now tens of thousands of people come here.
For that purpose and to look for condors and whatever else.
Like a goat.
The old timers had a lot of walking and climbing to do to get from here to there.
They had to go along the edge of the Echo Cliffs there to Lee's Ferry, where they can cross, and then they had to come up along this side of the Colorado River, along the Vermilion Cliffs, until they passed them into the flats.
They could see the promised land over there. It would take them 3 days to get there.
Yeah, because they had to go all that way to Lee's Ferry before they could cross. West of the Navajo Bridge, you come across the Vermilion Cliffs. Once you look at them, you realize why they're called Vermilion Cliffs. The iron oxides really come out, and the sun hitting it just lights them up with different shades of reds and orange. Most of the cliffs are siltstones and sandstones, starting back in the Triassic, 230 million years ago. There was tremendous amount of block faulting where huge blocks had been uplifted or dropped. Vermilion Cliffs are a result of that. Look at these big boulders. Wow.
It is a great field.
Yeah, this is wonderful. When these boulders tumbled down, the underlying siltstone was right there at the bottom of them. And over time, the siltstone eroded much, much quicker than the shinnerup, and a pedestal has formed. If you look around, you can see big boulders of the shinnerup conglomerate laying on the ground. Eventually, the underlying siltstone will be eroded and they'll end up on pedestals. Looks like giant mushroom. The erosion factors here are both wind and rain.
You can almost imagine in a huge summer thunderstorm, there's a little arroyo here with the force of the water carrying little pieces of silt, just water, gravel, hitting this, it's going to tear it away almost before your very eyes.
Oh yeah, and a real big flood, the gusher would just really rip right through here. And you know, the ironic thing is that if this gets eroded too much, it eventually will, this is going to tumble, hopefully while we're not here, and then the process starts all over again. And I want you to notice the cap rock here got little pebbles in it, and that's why it's a conglomerate.
That's a conglomerate, yeah. And I think that I'll watch it from out here because it's cloudy and another rain might come up, because look how top heavy that is. Let's
shall we roll?
Move on.
Okay.
The Arizona Strip was too tough for many people to settle, but for millions of years it was the perfect place for North America's biggest bird. That is, until late in the 19th century, when humans and condors clashed, and condors lost.
How long has the Peregrine Fund been involved in working with the condors?
Well, our first release was in December of 1996, but we came in about mid-1995. This site was chosen basically for its proximity to the Kaibab Plateau, the food supply that's available there, as well as the lack of proximity to developed areas and a lot of human travel. The first step, of course, is producing the birds in captivity. Basically, they're fed and held in there in seclusion with as little human activity as possible until we move them to the release pen. From the release pen, they spend a few weeks there interacting in some way and observing the free-flying birds, feeding on carcasses, things like that, and then they're released. So we try to maintain as little human contact as possible, while as much as possible having contact with the free-flying birds. What we have here is a GPS transmitter that has a solar array.
They wear this?
They wear this on their wing, on the leading edge of their wing.
It's got a neat little solar panel on it. Well, that's terrific. And that's their number, so you can see that from with a scope. You can tell which bird it is.
From a mile away, you can get pretty good visuals from a mile away.
And this has a GPS unit in it?
A GPS, just as in your handheld unit. It collects information all day and then uploads to satellite once per day. So these points on the screen here are overlaid onto a topographic map program using GIS software that we can actually plot the birds for as few as just a few hours ago from when the
So you can actually see where they are as a couple hours ago, right, and follow their movements.
Exactly.
Almost live, not quite live.
Almost live, and it allows us to direct the biologist to exactly where the birds were last known to be. The California condors are strictly opportunistic scavengers, and they utilize winds either created by updrafts from desert floor heating up, or in this case, during this time of year, the topography you see here and prevailing winds. They can soar for all day and throughout the year, foraging for food and utilize very little energy in doing so, which allows them to go 7, 10, 14 days without feeding. So they're very efficient scavengers, and they make a living by investigating areas of activity.
This is basically a condor hospital. Is that accurate?
Yeah, field hospital. If a bird does need care and would otherwise probably die, then we will intervene at this stage because we are trying to stack the odds in favor of the condor in these early years. And interestingly, through all of the years now of capturing birds and treating them, we've not had a bird deemed unreleasable or hurt bad enough to not be released. I'd say that the number one threats, the ones that we focus on, are the ones that we can do something about. Let's get her weighed.
Okay.
So obviously toxins that affect the birds directly, like lead poisoning, where we've found pathways for lead to get into carcasses that condors are eating. I'd say those are the ones we focus on the most because we can do something about it. Slow to come around, but she's still alive.
Yep. That's important. Lead poisoning is an issue with the condors here in Arizona, and it's actually the leading cause of mortality. And we know that one pathway they're getting this lead from is from incidentally ingesting carcasses that actually have spent lead ammunition in them. And game and fish, since we're involved with hunting, we can actually do a lot of in this department. So what we do is public education. You can see this copper bullet right here. It mushrooms upon impact. It has 98 to 100% weight retention. Now, in comparison, a lead bullet, they can fragment up to hundreds of pieces upon impact of a deer or an elk, something like that. So what happens is they fragment into small pieces, and the condors actually ingest those when they eat the carcass or the gut pile. Actually, that's also a big issue. So this way, the condors are less likely to ingest this large piece of bullet, and also it's less toxic than lead.
In the next 7 to 10 years, we should have a population large enough that when we retract our management, our intensive management, and nature's hand is allowed to come down and strike the population, I think at that point we'll then know what this area will support, the Arizona Strip, how many condors will be supported.
Departing from the Condor research facilities, we leave paved roads and all other amenities behind, headed for the steepest and most isolated overlook of the Grand Canyon.
Now we got to check out this sign. I get the feeling they're trying to call our attention to certain features here on the Arizona Strip.
Yeah, especially this road to Torowheat Point. So
no glasses of water.
No gasoline.
Yeah, no gasoline. Apparently there's no telephones. I have no idea what that means.
And then no eating facilities and no mechanics.
Oh, no mechanics. That doesn't mean there are no forks in the road? So let's boogie.
Yeah.
Let's get down
We got
the
a long
way.
way to go.
Yes, 60 miles of fun and enjoyment.
Look how desolate it looks ahead of us.
Well, yeah, one person's desolation is another person's Eden.
That's true. That's true.
Well, I've heard the Arizona Strip called the Big Empty, and today it's the Big Muddy. Man.
The Big Empty Muddy, huh?
Yeah, it is, but it does go on
I mean,
and on.
just forever.
You know, we're still in Arizona, and this is a desert, but this is not the warm Sonoran Desert.
No, the low-lying areas of the Arizona Strip is around 5,000 feet, but there's parts of it, of course, that gets much higher. But at this elevation, you get a lot of desert-adapted plants, but also cold-adapted.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is considered a cold desert, a high cold desert.
You know, they say that sagebrush rivals creosote for smelling good after a rain. And it's just rained up here. It has a
really
real
nice, huh?
strong smell.
Wow.
Slightly chemical, but pleasant too. But I guess one big factor about the lack of people in the Arizona Strip is it's really hard to find permanent water.
Yeah.
And that makes it hard for big herds of cows.
Most of the water that's here is really dispersed, sparse, typically in the foothills where there's springs.
This is the Torowheat Valley. It's a word that appears to mean in Paiute, dry valley. When Europeans arrived here, they had a hard time with that word, so they shortened it to Tuweep, which is the way it appears on maps. But its real name is Torowheat. You notice that once they get into the Grand Canyon formations, the road got a whole lot rougher.
Yeah, because we're on rock.
We're on solid rock. Got to hear the Paiutes, who had to know this country just intimately. They must have had a certain queasy sensation the first time they came down here and saw the rim of the canyon.
Yeah, considering the rest of the strip is relatively flat with
Hilly,
hills
yeah.
and small peaks, but to come across a gorge like this all of a sudden.
It almost seems as the closer you get to the canyon, the greater the difference is in vegetation from up sort of in the flatter, higher part of the strip.
Yeah, we've actually been increasing in elevation down in the flats where we saw, you know, grasses and sagebrushes and so forth. As we climbed up, we started getting the pinyon juniper, stunted trees, and even there for a while, some pines.
But I tell you, that last 10 miles or so was nice to drop back down and get out of the soft mud.
Mucky clay.
Good Lord.
Due to the limestones and sandstones here.
As far as I can tell, we've arrived at Toroweep.
Yeah.
These rocks here in the middle of the lot here suggest they don't want us to go any farther.
I don't think you'd want to either. From what I remember from 22 years ago, this is a spectacular view.
Well, let's see if it is what it's cut out to be. The straightest shot to the bottom in the whole Grand Canyon, right?
It is, from this viewpoint here at Toroweep.
This is the limit.
This is the southern limit of the Arizona Strip.
Yeah, you know, this is the edge. My gosh, it's sheer. That's got to be...
Oh, I think it's
3,000
3,000 feet straight down at this point. You can actually hear the rapids.
You got to take a photograph.
All righty.
No farther than this. All right, my friends don't want me to go any farther than this.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, yeah, but who said you were my friend?
Yeah, if you look at what is above us, and it's spectacular in its own right, then you get here to the edge and look into the inner gorge.
And you're looking at 1.8 billion year old Vishnu schist,
Yeah,
is that
clear,
right?
clear at the bottom. That's
Yeah.
a lower layer. So you got a lot of geological history that's
Man.
exposed here. Most of the recent geological work seem to indicate that it was carved in about 6 million years, the canyon itself.
Before that carving was done, there was no Arizona Strip.
No, because
This was just straight across.
That's right.
And if that had stayed that way, why, we'd have condominiums virtually all the way up to the Virgin River,
Yeah.
St. George, Utah.
yeah.
So thanks to the river, my warm regards. Great work.
A wonderful finish, that's for sure.
So we better get our stuff packed and move on. It's hard to leave. Well, we got to find a campsite. We're losing our son. I don't know about your tent, but mine's got all the comforts of home.
Mine does too.
Pillow.
Yep. From this point where we're at, it would take hours to get to a place where there's a motel, a hotel. So camping it is.
Hey, you suppose we got a little mud? Look at the... All right, good. It's gonna
get
chilly
cold
fast.
tonight.
You know, for just a little few days up in the Arizona Strip, we got a whole pot full of equipment.
The ground's gonna be real wet tonight. The more insulation you got underneath, the better off you're gonna be.
Tent is up.
It's bed.
The vegetation here in the Arizona Strip gets real characteristic as you get close to the canyon.
Yeah, and what we're seeing here is a lot of desert-adapted plants.
Yeah, I'll say, look how we have to step gingerly to get around the
I know,
prickly
you got to
pears.
watch where you're stepping, but there's a couple of types of prickly pear. This hedgehog
Yeah,
right
there's
here.
a hedgehog, right. You got the yucca.
And one of my favorites here is this little prickly pear called grizzly bear prickly pear.
Yeah, it's well named.
Yeah.
It does look like a grizz.
It does.
It really does.
All those spines on there, but they're really
And I
cute.
expect you should stay away from them too, the way you should stay away from a grizz. But it really is. I mean, this is desert vegetation.
Oh, this is all desert. And you'll see that it's kind of stunted because of the cold during the winter.
God, one great thing about the Supai Formation is on the flats, it's full of these depressions, and when it rains, they got pools everywhere.
Yeah, they're seasonal and temporary, but were very important for the wildlife and even the native peoples.
Oh man, it's cold, 36 degrees, 37 degrees. This nondescript mound called Vulcan's Throne looks like just an ordinary hill, but 1,000,000 years ago it was explosive, producing more volcanic activity than anywhere in the western United States. Now, it looks like just another ordinary hill.
This is Utah agave, and it was very important to the native peoples here. They would take the heart of the agave, cut all the leaves off,
And roast it.
and they would roast it.
So that's real important.
Yeah, really. And plus they use the leaf for fibers. It's real fibery
you
inside.
make rope. So these pods are full of seeds, little black seeds, and they're actually edible. They could grind them and with, say, pinon nuts and make a meal out of them. They were edible, perhaps not the best thing in the world, but nutritious.
And another interesting plant here is the Utah juniper. And it does produce those juniper berries.
Oh yeah,
that
you
they
put
use
them
for
in
flavor.
gin.
But more important, see this shaggy bark? Look at that.
Oh yeah, it's real soft.
Well, before the days of toilet paper, they just kind of pulverize it like that and would use it as toilet paper. And also
Wait,
as
who would?
the native
Okay,
peoples
all right.
and the pioneers as
No way
well.
I'm going to try that. I
And,
believe
and,
you.
and for material for diapers as an absorbent.
Oh, it was useful stuff though. It's kind of hard to believe, but a lot of native peoples thought these little hedgehog cactuses are so pretty. But if you had an ear infection, you could cut off some of the spines and take the pulp, and if you put a drop of that pulp, just squeezed it into the ear, it would cure the infection. It's widely known, and I expect there's a lot of truth into it. I mean, how do people figure this stuff out?
Yeah.
But
Good to
it's-
know.
Yeah, it's good to know.
Next time you have one, here it is.
And what
Oh,
happened to the
Look at
prickly
this.
pear?
So we're gonna have to get close to notice what's happening
Somebody's been eating prickly pear.
here. Yeah, you see this big old chunk missing here?
Yeah.
And how ragged it is? And look at the droppings here. So this was a rabbit, pretty desperate for
Boy,
some
I'll say,
moisture.
man, you've got to be hard.
And he was chewing on this.
We eat them when they're green, so why not?
But there's been a prolonged drought in this area.
Yeah.
And animals are desperate.
Anywhere you wander around out here in this country, you'll find evidence of early occupants. On these sites, it's all mostly lithic material, so first you just look for lithics.
What is that? Well, like this?
Yeah, like this right here. These were the tools they used to make a living, which was pretty tough to say the least. Most of this stuff is early man chippings, archaic culture, fleshing tools. These belong out here on the land. If everybody picks them up, then there won't be any left, so they're best left right on the ground where they are. This is more of a hunting area, this grassland. They'd be coming through here, wandering through, hunting larger game. Most of the campsites are closer to little water source or food gathering areas where they would actually stay put for a while.
Historic settlers left behind remnants that show they had an even harder time living on the Strip than the pre-Columbians did.
It's a very small structure.
I'll give you a nickel if you can decipher this sign.
It says Two Weep Church, barely legible.
Yeah, Two Weep Church.
It looks like the sign is burnt down since it was mounted on the structure. Well, no doubt in the late 1800s when the Mormons first arrived, it looked pretty good out here. They stayed and stocked it to their capacity. On a good year, it was really good, but on a bad year, it was really bad. Water is always a problem out here. There's very little live water, and it would all be catchmen and tanks. On a dry year, it would be mighty tough.
Well, there's got to be a better way to make a living.
They figured that out. You don't see too many of them around now.
The immensity and mystery of the Grand Canyon overshadow the natural wonders of the Arizona Strip. Yet it's because of the canyon and the wild topography of the Colorado Plateau that the Strip has been pretty much left alone. Most of those who know it hope that these 7,000 some square miles will remain wild and undeveloped forever. It's spiny. It only flowers once in a lifetime. And despite its appearance, it's not even a cactus. But the agave holds reign over a major portion of Mexico's international economy and identity. Next time on The Desert Speaks.
Salud.
So this Navajo bridge just replaced that Lee's Ferry crossing, and I think it probably accommodated a few more vehicles over its 70 years of life or so.
And quite a bit safer to cross, I'd say.
Well, it also sort of connects the Navajo reservation with this whole other part of the Arizona Strip, which is under all sorts of different land ownership.
Funding for The Desert Speaks was provided by Desert Program Partners, representing concerned viewers making a financial commitment to the education about and preservation of deserts, and by the Stonewall Foundation,